So hello everybody, I promised you to look more closely at Zebra 3 from Yuhi, and I went through the whole manual, which is currently 120 pages and it's really nicely written, so it's absolutely worth having a look at it. And yeah, you need to check it out, I guess, to understand the full depth of Zebra 3, and it's an insane plug-in synthesizer. It has gazillions of filters, all kinds of oscillators, lots of effects, and at the base it's also modular, so you can route things around. And yeah, let's maybe step into that. And I created quite a bunch of sounds which you can also download from our website. The link is down in the description. And to give you a first impression, you can do things like that, for example. But let's start with a totally blank init sound, which is just a simple oscillator. And to give you a basic idea, what's going on here is at the left side, you have your oscillators and filters, so everything that produces sound. And on the right hand, you have the modulation sources, so envelopes, LFOs, and so on. And in the middle, you have the routing through the different modules, which go into 4 channels of sounds. So you can use these 4 channels to route your sounds to different effects or pan them and things like that. And at the bottom, you have the sources for your modulation, which are not always here, the first thing, so you can drag them on each and every knob to modulate it. And what is a bit confusing is they are not all down here, but here are also additional modulators, so the MSEGs, 4 of them, and the mappers, which we also will have a look later on, are available up here, and the rest is here. So a bit confusing, but I think that's easy to get used to. And here you can find the FX outputs, which we will also have a look. You have a performance page where you can have settings for the keyboard, and you have a whole section only for pitch, where you find the normal things like glide or pitch bender, and can also change tunings and stuff like that. But let's start very simple. We have this wave here. For starters, let's create a simple patch which gives you a first impression. We already have an envelope here ready, which does the amplitude. So we have a bit more release maybe for a pad. Already a good start, and we need a filter. So you can add modules here by simply clicking on a slot. You don't have to take the next one. You can also take one more down here to maybe better see what the routing is here. And we have a choice of 4 filters. They are all identical, but that's not only one filter type, that's a gazillion of filter types, which you can select here. So you have, I did not even count them, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 11. Did I count that correctly? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, no, 13, even 13 different variations with different pole settings from 6 to 24, and they all sound quite different. And already these filter settings are a huge playground. Absolutely interesting. The new one, the yellow one, which is very crunchy and has a distortion. But maybe let's start with a simple 24 pole, or let's have a weaker one, a 12 pole for a pad, and we can close it to the cutoff. And what we need to do now is assign a second envelope to the cutoff. So we found the envelopes down here. So the second envelope, we simply drag and drop that on the cutoff and can now modulate it with the envelope. But to do so, if you pull here at the outside, you change the value. But if you click on the circle in the middle and then drag it, you change the modulation intensity. So this is to the max now. So what we now need to do is also to crank up the attack. Maybe a bit faster. So more like a brass. But we also don't need to crank that up the full way. Let's increase the decay. Something like that sounds already pretty nice. And then you can do the usual things like double the oscillator to make it wider and things like that. But maybe let's do that. You can also copy them. So copy, and here you can then paste them, and we have that. And what is a bit also counterintuitive is how do you send now the second oscillator into the first filter? You need to click on the filter, and then you can say here it's from lane 2, so then it moves around here. And we can turn that down, so we hear only now this filter. And we can detune the second filter a bit. So this looks like a bug to me because this worked before, but let's try a mixer with that. So there's a mixer, and we need to set that back to the same lane. And this seems to work strangely. Okay. Still beta. Okay, so but let's have a look at the effects. So we have now one output, and that output is coming here in. This is a master output. And we have also 3 more buses, and you can select that output. So you cannot only have it at the main, you can send this to different buses. For example, if you would have here open also that one, that sound, we could say, let's send them to bus 1. And then we need to pull it up. So we have here the volume for the master and for the 3 other buses. So we can turn up that as well. So we basically just route that through, but let's listen first if we add something. So let's add a reverb here, which we don't hear. So we have a reverb, and we don't have this reverb on a second bus. So if we turn it up, there's no reverb. So you can make individual settings that way for the different buses. And we could add something else to the first bus. We could say there we want to have a distortion maybe. And this distortion is only now on the bus. So the distortion is not here. But you could also send now the master track here to that first bus as well. If you crank up here these knobs. Could add a bit of crunch to that. And the normal signal. Okay, that's already a simple sound we have, but there's much, much more to that. So let's select the first oscillator. And these are not all of the settings. That's already quite a lot you can change here for the oscillator. But there's even more stuff down here. So you have, for example, the specific effects for the oscillator, which you can activate here. So let's give that a look. So you have more filters. If these were not enough, you have more filters here, but also all other ways to scramble sound you can think of. Yeah, let's talk about scrambling. Here's a scrambler. Let's give that a listen. Maybe let's remove the effect. So we have a, so you can double click something to deactivate it, to mute it, and you can control, double click it, so pressing control and double clicking it to remove it completely. So we could get rid of them completely. And let's maybe also remove that one or mute it. So we only hear the first oscillator. So you can hear it better what it does. And for sure, everything could modulate it here as well. Maybe let's take a sync. And you can also modulate these, as I said. So for example, let's now take an LFO. So LFOs are also down here, and let's modulate the depth here with the modulator. Ah, we need to crank up the intensity. And you can do things like that with that. But you can also have lots of settings here. So for example, here's unison. If you want to go with one sound, you could say, let's have 10. And you could also switch on that one. So nice. I think we go in the FX territory. It's really cool. And you can change all the, let's click it. You can also change the curve here to your heart's alike. And these are the simple settings for the curve. You can double click, not on the curve, but somewhere else to create a new point even. And you can change by here, you can change the slope. But you can also go into the totally insane editor. So here you can tweak the curve to your heart's alike with all different drawing help to design your curve, which I will not go into. It's insane. And you can also loop between them and do all sorts of things. But this is, yeah, should be in separate tutorials, this editor. But I think it's just about experimenting with it. So just try it out yourself, what you can do with that. Oh, we are really in crazy territory. And you can even morph it. So let's maybe do that with, why not with an MSEG now? So these are on top the MSEGs, but the same modulators as the ones down here. So let's put it here and again in the center. Let's do it like that. Now, isn't it nice? So, and what are these mappers? So these mappers are more like single steps up to 128, and you can also modulate all kinds of stuff with that. And why not have this on panorama a bit? And we also need to pull that, so even this mixer can be modulated. Let's give that a shot, or maybe let's first pull that to the left and then modulate the whole range. So it will jump. Now we need to put that here, I think on center. It's a bit strange. So you definitely should listen to that on headphones. And we could modulate with the second one, maybe the other one. Also here you can do all kinds of things with the steps. And there's the same editor as we had coming soon. Oh, it's not the same, it's a bit different. And you can edit also like that. So these were actually already, I think, the basic building blocks for everything you can do in Zebra, and it's tons of fun to do that. I cannot get enough. But as I said in the beginning, you can download some patches, which I did. And for example, I can give you a quick demo what I did. Really interesting bass with some weird crunch on it. And a nice pad. Totally bread and butter. That's so nice. Oh, and we did not even talk about the frequency modulation, where you can do DX stuff, and also there's true zero frequency modulation, which is even nicer. And yeah, lots of ways to experiment. And what else? We have a shimmer pad, which is also cool. And another effect. So really cool stuff. Yeah, you find the link down in the description. And if you have any questions, or if I should dive deeper into specific areas, just write me down in the comments. And one last tip, maybe to find interesting new sounds, the easiest way, just to twiddle some knobs like that. And if you think, oh, that's cool, if I do that, then just assign a modulator, an LFO, an envelope, whichever fits your movement of your hand, which you did manually. And then you can come up with really crazy sounds pretty quickly. I hope you did enjoy this tutorial, and until next time, make some funky music.